Film next to the busiest road ever. It's fantastic. There's going to be a lot of jump cuts in this because, as you can tell, there's a lot of noise from traffic, and I'm trying to talk between cars, which isn't the easiest thing to do because, as you can tell, filming right next to the road. Granted, the time I decide to show how many cars there are, there's no fucking cars. Fucking cars. May as well be trying to film this in the shoulder of the highway. I'll just cut you out. I'm trying to get this done. I found out a really fucking half an hour left. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Breaking Things with Tater. Today we are working on the Jetta. Why are we working on the Jetta? Well, roughly 2 weeks ago, I started hearing a clicking noise when I was driving. Tried a couple times to record said noise. This is the best I was able to get. Now, based on when I heard the noise, I was able to deduce a couple things. First of all, it would occur more frequently the faster I was going. So it was a rotational noise. I tried taking out a gear, let the engine come down to idle or revving it. It was speed dependent. It also sounded like it was coming from the left front tire. So there's four things that only four things to spin in the front, right? That's the fourth one. I know there's four. So as you're driving, there's four things that are rotating, at least on the Jetta. The tire, the rotor, the hub and bearing, and the CV shaft. So any of those four things could be causing a noise. My guess was brakes. I bought the car with 91,000 on it. It's got 167,000 on it now. And the entire time I've owned it, I've done the rear pads and rotors twice, and I have not touched the front pads and rotors at all. It's reasonable to conclude that they could be shot, and it's the rotor right here. As for the hub and bearing, could be. Once again, got 167,000 miles in the car. I've never touched them. Typically, they don't present as a click, more of a hum or growling noise. This isn't always the case, but typically that's what it is. As for the tires, they were replaced before I went to Colorado, which is a couple months ago now. The tires have less than 10,000 miles on them, and the clicking, like I said, has only started a couple weeks ago. So unlikely, but still possible. As for the last possibility, the CV shaft, also unlikely. Well, it is a clicking noise. Normally when a CV shaft is shot, the clicking noise you get mostly on a turn. Now this happens all the time, so mostly when I'm driving straight down the road. Another reason why the CV shaft is unlikely is because I just replaced it. Well, I replaced it during the winter. Obviously it's fall now, so it's been a little bit. The reason I replaced it when I was doing the front and rear struts before I started filming Breaking Things with Tater. If I have any footage or most likely photos from that, I'll include it here on top of me talking about what happened. The reason I was doing the front and rear struts is I started getting a banging noise as I hit bumps. The car had about 150,000 miles on it then, due to the mileage, and since I had never touched it, I just assumed the front and rear struts were gone, and it couldn't hurt to do it. So I got it in the shop, got it up on the lift, tear the tires off, and I discovered two things. One, those are the original front struts, and presumably also the original rear struts. The reason they need to be done is because the spring had snapped. When I was doing them, I was trying to not take out the CV shafts, which I managed to do on the passenger side. It was a pain in the balls nonetheless, but I managed to do it. Driver's side, I wasn't so lucky. CV shaft is splined into the left front hub, well, it's actually into both hubs. Did not want to come out because it had never been apart. So now I'm having to take an air hammer, pounding the CV shaft out of the hub. But we finally got her out. But in the process of trying to pound it out, I put a long extension for a ratchet down the center of the CV shaft. So there's a hole there, figuring that it was cupped and I could push into it. Turns out that was not the case. As I started hammering it, what I ended up doing was separating the CV joint while the boot was still together. So with the help of one of my technicians, I managed to get that reassembled, got the strut in, went to put the CV shaft back in, and it refused to go back into the hub. And on this, it doesn't use a CV nut, it uses a CV bolt, which goes into the center of the shaft, and the bolt was not long enough until the CV axle was actually in the hub. Since I couldn't get the slide in, I tried filing the edges down, thinking maybe they had been buggered up slightly by hammering on it. And the other problem we had is the bolt wasn't long enough to actually reach into and grab the shaft to try to pull it in. Long story short, I ended up having to run and buy a new CV shaft, which I then installed. So that's brand new. So I don't think it's that, but I guess we'll see. So I encourage you to take your guess now. What do you think it is, now that I've given you the breakdown of what it could be? I'll pause here for a minute. Make your guesses. Feel free to put them in the comments. What do you think it is? My guess is the pads and rotors, which I've already gone ahead and purchased, mainly because to get the gold rotors, they have to be special ordered. Regardless of what it is, I'm going to be doing the front pads and rotors, because I got them, and to try to discover what the problem is, I had to take apart the whole front end anyways. So I got it torn apart, I got the parts, that's what we're going to do. Today I got my lovely assistant, the stunt double, helping me out. So we already got a look in there, and we've figured out what the issue is. And while the pads and rotors are well worn, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to replace them, they're not the cause of the noise. Move the bolt already?
Half shaft's out.
Oh.
Half shaft's out for 3 minutes. The easiest fucking half shaft I've ever done.
By design or because it wasn't in there all the way?
By design.
Oh, okay.
Popping the caliper off now and get the brake job going at the same time. And I gotta go warranty that shaft. It's still good, but you've lost 90% of the grease, so it's worthwhile to swap it.
So we're actually gonna go do that now. We're gonna run down to AutoZone, which thankfully just around the corner, and get a new CV shaft. Another new CV shaft. It's always nice when I'm not the one on the side of the road. And we're back. Got the new CV shaft right here. Most importantly, it comes with a bag of hardware, like all the bolts. Since the old ones came out, most likely because they weren't tight enough, but nonetheless, we got new ones, we're putting new ones in. Now, I didn't film the interaction at the store. Both the stunt double and I assume he's in frame, used to work there, so we know how the system works, so I had to walk the guy through how to process it. And he still fucked it up because he started clicking stuff before I told him to do so. So he gets to explain that to his commercial manager tomorrow. Not my problem. So we are still doing the brakes. Are we doing the brakes or the CV shaft first?
Next step's take off the bracket, which you need the triple.
I assume you need the triple squares. You do it for the rear. No, what? How are you going to get the bracket off?
With a wrench.
Yeah, what size bit does it take? The rear ones take triple square. Why the fuck would they use regular bolts in the front and not the rear?
Back up. The dead center of the trunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that explains it. What do you want me to do? Do that same ramp?
Basically, but let me preface it first. Before we put the new CV shaft in, we're gonna do the brakes. We're just gonna remove the brake.
I just removed the brakes to be able to put the half shaft in easier.
Okay. So never fucking fails.
Quick, go.
So to make it easier to do the CV shaft, we're gonna remove the front pads and rotors because we're gonna be doing them anyways. Might as well get them out of there. Now you saw when I did the rear pads and rotors, presuming you watched that episode, The caliper bracket was held in by triple square bits, which I had to buy to fix other things. So I brought them with me because I assumed that this is going to take triple square bits as well. But because it's a Volkswagen, why would they use the same fasteners for both the front and rear?
They don't use the same fasteners for anything. We've got Torx holding in the rotor. We've got Allen head holding in the slide pins for the caliper. We've got hex head holding in the caliper mounting brackets. And we got triple square holding in the caps that don't even actually bolt on, they clip on over the lug nuts, which thankfully are lug studs. I hate German cars.
Technically, this car was manufactured in Mexico.
Ain't either way. Designed by Germans. Nothing against Germany. Simmer down. All I'm saying. Are you fucking kidding me?
I would say it's not triple square.
Yeah, that would be the issue. Your tech used the factory triple square on a single torque-fueled bolt when he should have used the replacement, which aren't Torx, they're Allen head. That's why it failed in the first place.
This explains why they come with new bolts every time.
One-time use, torque to yield. Always make sure to charge your tools only after you decide you need them to find the batteries dead.
That's how we do things. The wrong way. If we'd done this right the first time, we wouldn't be doing it.
I wouldn't be doing it.
I could have done it. You hopped in.
A brake job over there that needs to be did.
Yeah, the backside of this rotor doesn't look fantastic either.
Well, the backside of you don't look too fantastic.
Hey, don't you talk about my backside.
Since I have to look at it way more than you, I feel I have the right to.
How long are these bolts?
What, the...
Pin bolts.
They don't come all the way out. They come till the end's flush to the end of the boot.
I tried. It's not moving.
Yeah, I know.
Watch how with zero turning I get it out.
Yeah, that's got a decent ridge on it.
You're a decent rig.
I want it on record, he is now cleaning his gloves.
Yes, because I have to hold the phone again in a second.
Well, I'm not doing anything, I just figured I had been demoted to cameraman. Unless I am being re-promoted to technician. It's a beat. Dynamic angles.
Where the fuck is the set screw? Monkey's dirty, laying in the area. What the fuck? You must have hit a button.
Warning, unable to use flash.
Alright, just got back from the test drive. As you might imagine, the clicking's gone because we fixed the issue. But always test drive to make sure. Kind of cut out a bunch of the end there because the battery in the DSLR died. My phone was about dead to the point where it wouldn't let me use the light on anymore. So I was using Stunt Double's phone for a little bit. His died to the point we couldn't use the light anymore. So we just called it. But all you missed was putting the tires back on and putting the caps back in place. The lesson here is when something comes with new bolts, use them. There's probably a reason it came with it.
What?
Anything else you want to add at the end?
Rub-a-dub-dub, I want to be in a tub.
And on that note, I will see you guys next time.